So, welcome everybody to the Astronomy Master presentation. I'm your speaker today, Paloma Jol, and then I'm the Master Ambassador, and today I'll be telling you a little bit about what it's like to be a student in the Astronomy Master in Leiden. And after we will have a Q&A. For the questions of the Q&A, please refer to the link on the slide that you see right now, the astro.joinlive.tv. It will be on every slide, so if you have any questions, don't hesitate to send them in. So, the city of Leiden, the city of discovery it's also called. The city of Leiden has the oldest university in the Netherlands, and it has a very well history of being a university city. So it's an old city, it has very nice water, and it has very nice cafes and a very nice atmosphere. The city of Leiden is not too big, so it's very nice to drive also with a bike, and it's a short distance to go from the university, to go to cafes, to go to restaurants. It's also a very student city, so 1 in the 5 people that are actually living here are part of the student city. The observatory itself is also very established. It was established in 1633, so it's a very old university with a very rich history. It's located in the Bioscience Park, which is a little bit north of the historic center of Leiden. As a university study, as you study astronomy at the university, you also get access to offices for the master student. So as part of this program, you will be doing research. You do 2 research projects or 1 research project depending on your specialization. And as part of that, you will also be studying here and working here. And that means we also have offices where you can work and where you can sign up for. We also have study and computer rooms where you can work at the university. And we also have, which is very helpful if you have long simulations, remote access to the observatory computers. Meaning that if you need very high computational powers, you can log into those and do your work from there. As part of the program, you'll also be doing the research, and that also means you'll be supervised by a PhD or a professor supervisor, and he will help you to get your program on the way to the research and to actually help the research groups which you will be a part of. And as part of that, you have the research group meetings, you also have colloquia, which are planned for those, and it's also very nice to actively engage in these, because these are also social activity. Because it's very important to note that in astronomy, especially in Leiden, it's not a solitary job anymore. We need a lot of working together, and I think that's something that Leiden does very well. We especially have the Kaiser Lounge, which is just a place to get the coffee room, but that also means that these are places where people come together, discuss their issues, and maybe and have cake if somebody gets a paper published. So that's a little bit how it's to be actually working here. So we also have a study association. Study association is Leids Fles, and it's actually a study association of 4 different programs. So it is astronomy, physics, computer science, and mathematics, and they organize activities for all those studies together. They also have a book action in the beginning, meaning that some books that you might need for your master, you can get them from them with a discount. And they have a master committee, which usually involves in the organizing many activities for the masters, especially like these can be social activities, but these can also be very work-related, so career-focused. So they will ask any businesses that might be interested in what you would like to do after your master. And as part of that, they also have a smaller association, which is the Kaiser. And Kaiser is a specific subgroup of the Leids Fles, which actually focuses on astronomy students. So they also are involved in the old observatory, which is actually in the city center, not one we study at, but is still a museum for the astronomy. And as a part of them, you can also be like a tour guide. And they also have access to the old telescope, so they do observation nights, but they also do social activities like game nights. So that's a little bit how it's going to be if you're going to be in Leiden, so about the city, about this the place, but also on social aspects. And now I'd like to give the word to you.
Hello everyone, I'm Julian Pensinger. I'm a first-year master student here in Leiden doing the astronomy research branch, and I'm here especially later to answer any questions which are important for students which are not here from the Netherlands, but actually coming from abroad here to Leiden. And I'm originally from Austria. I did my bachelor studies previously in Munich and in Vienna, doing a Bachelor of Science in Astronomy there. My main interests here, what I'm pursuing here in Leiden, is very interdisciplinary topics like astrochemistry And just before we go to the question and answer session, I just wanted to give you three important things along the way, which I think helped me as an international student a lot, and to have a really great start here in Leiden. So one of the most important things I would say is definitely to get a head start in housing, which can be very, very labor intense. So be sure to really make that a priority in coming here to Leiden. And one of the tips I would like to give you along the way is to really use the resource page that Leiden University already provides, the housing page, and really go through the page very carefully. And also, as a kind of side tip as well, use social media, especially their Facebook groups, which really help finding housing here in Leiden or also around Leiden. And since it's a very international city, Leiden, don't worry if you can't speak a word Dutch yet. Although I would recommend you to learn Dutch because it's a lot of fun actually. English alone gets you really well through most day-to-day situations. So most people here have a very good command of English. So that's definitely something you don't need to worry about. And last but not least, I would like to recommend to really proactively use any social events and activities that are offered right from the start while you start your program here. In particular, we probably heard about the orientation week in Leiden. So I would say many great friendships already you find here already, and makes your life in Leiden for the next few years very enjoyable. And that's from my side. I think we can go to the questions and answers.
Yeah, so now we have the Q&A. So if you have any questions about the program, studying in Leiden, we also have the study advisor about the Schuur here. If you have any questions for him or for Uni and me, so let us know.
So while we wait for answers, Julian, you are taking a Dutch course now, right?
I planned to. Mm-hmm. I did the Dutch online course that is offered.
Right.
So there is also a Dutch online course for free, which is offered by Leiden University, and it really helped me to get my first basics in Dutch and to learn some very cool words like gezellig, when activities are very wholesome.
Very important Dutch word.
And very, very community-based. So, but I'm looking forward to take actually courses as well.
Very good.
For next semester.
Sounds good. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. But like you were saying, we have a very strong international community at least in the observatory, but also in the city. I think not speaking Dutch or even understanding Dutch is not a problem in that sense. Yeah.
I think it's actually a bit of a thing that if you try to learn Dutch, that sometimes they start English at you, and then you might not want that because they all know English, so they start English at you. They think you don't know. So
yes,
it's actually hard.
Might be a good thing, might be a bad thing. Yeah, because maybe that's not clear, but I'm actually from the Netherlands, so I started here from Leiden as well. So it really is a mix between who is in the Netherlands, but also a lot of internationals.
Yeah, yeah. You did your bachelor's here in Leiden, right? Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me read the first question. When will the master students decide the specialization that they want to take? During the orientation, registration, or the second year, or any other time? No.
Good question. Yeah, it's a very good question. So you can sign up for 2 specializations. When you register, when you do the application, you sign up for 2 research specializations, and you decide between them actually when you start the program. You can decide beforehand, so you can decide which one you want to do before starting the program. But at the very beginning of the program, there will be an intake meeting for each student personally with me as a study advisor, and we will decide together. If you haven't decided yourself, we will decide together which specialization you want to take. And I think, Julian, how many specializations did you sign up for?
I signed up for just one.
Just the one,
yes.
Right? Yeah, yeah. So for you, it was clear that you wanted to take that specialization, but we often have people that are undecisive yet between whether or not they want to do, for example, the general research specialization, or if they want to focus on more the data science or cosmology specialization. So you decide at least before starting the program. And in very special cases, you can also switch during the program sometimes between specializations as well.
And keeping in mind, if you look at the courses, there is some play that you can mix some of them. And that's something, but something that you will discuss with Dr. Scheer. But if you have like, oh, but both of these are very nice, you can combine quite some things between them. So I think then we can go to the next question. Is the cosmology specialization for the astronomy master same as the physics master? No, it's not, but maybe Dr. Scheer again.
It is very similar. So we have the cosmology specialization is actually a joint degree between the astronomy department and the physics department at Leiden University, but both the astronomy department has a cosmology specialization as well as the physics department. So you either choose astronomy cosmology or physics and cosmology. And for 80% they are very similar. You do for 80% the same courses and the same type of research projects, but there are some main differences, especially in the elective courses that you take. So if you do astronomy and cosmology, you take a bit more electives within the astronomy program, and if you take physics and cosmology, you take a bit more electives within the physics program. And you can find the structure of both programs in our online study guide.
Then the next one, what are the entry requirements? I'm currently doing a Bachelor Applied Physics, not in Leiden. So the entry requirements are also can be found on the the general page of the Master Astronomy. But
yeah.
I think it's for you again.
Yeah. So usually we want people to have a bachelor's in astronomy or an equivalent degree. So if you're doing applied physics, there are multiple places where you can do it. If you do it in the Netherlands, for example, you can come from Delft, Twente, or you can come from Eindhoven. For the people coming from the Delft University, we have a pre-master's program to catch up for the deficiencies that you have in terms of the astronomy courses that you don't take in the applied physics program itself. So you are not directly admissible from the applied physics bachelor itself, but you can do a short pre-master's program to make up for the deficiencies in terms of the astronomy courses that you are lacking in that sense. And that is very similar also for the applied physics bachelors coming from Eindhoven and from Twente.
Yes. So maybe the next one, can you name a few different career prospects after finishing the master? Yes, so of course there is one if you go further into astronomy research, you can apply for PhD in multiple places in Leiden, but also over the world. And Leiden University is quite strong in that, so it's a good background to have, but you can also look a little bit more into the business side things. So I actually applied for maybe something that can be an ESA or something like that, and then you go a little bit more into the research, but then the business side. And overall, you're trained as a data scientist in very good problem-solving skills. So any consultancy that might be ICT related will be glad to have you in that sense. So in that sense, it really depends on what you want to do. But in the astronomy side, you have a good background, but you also have a good background to have business sides and to get into the consultancy area of that. So I hope
maybe I can add some few questions from people I happen to gladly to make acquaintance with during my studies already. That there's also many opportunities for people studying astronomy in master and maybe PhD to also go into science communication and education branch. There's actually a science communication specialization here in Leiden as well, but I know some people who studied astronomy master and also PhD who later actually doing research in astrophysics, who later then decided to become teacher, to go into education, high school education as well, mathematics, physics, astronomy, as well as doing public outreach activities in various places in Europe as well. So there are many opportunities here too.
Yeah, so we indeed have a specialization focusing on the education part, but also on the science communication and society part. And at Leiden Observatory, we actually have a very big group focusing on the science communication parts of astronomy, the science communication and society group. Yeah.
Okay. Then are there mandatory subjects for the different specialization? Yes. I think it might be better just to look at this to the online study guide. So we have a very well online study guide, and it really shows which subjects are mandatory per specialization. And it really depends. I mean, the research doesn't have any mandatory subjects, but you do have some courses that you have to pick from. But the cosmology has mandatory things in theory of general relativity. So really look at the study guide. but there are. The answer is yes. Okay, then is it possible to apply with the bachelor's degree in artificial intelligence, possibly with a pre-master?
It's in the end, it's up to the Board of Admissions to decide that. We do require people to have a background, at least in enough background in physics, mathematics, and astronomy. And the artificial intelligence program most probably has a lot of mathematics background, of course, also in computer science. But I expect you will have very little background in the field of physics, and most probably not any background in the field of astronomy. And a pre-master's program can only be done for a small number of deficiencies that you have. So if you are doing a artificial intelligence bachelor program and don't have any background in the field of physics and astronomy, it is very likely that you will not be admittable to the program, even with a pre-master, unfortunately. But if you want to know for sure, you need to apply for the master's program so that the Board of Admissions can actually review your application and decide on whether or not to admit you if you have done a pre-master's, or to reject your application.
Okay, and then the next one, are there strong relationships between ESA and Leiden University, and is it possible to do research or an intern? Short answer, yes, I'm doing that right now. So I'm not sure if it will continue very strong.
It will,
yes?
definitely.
Okay,
we will only
great.
expand on it.
That's great, because this year they asked me in the beginning of, so I'm in my second year of my master, and they asked me in the beginning if I would be interested in doing a research project at ESA. So this is a collaboration between ESA and Leiden University. So I said yes, I would like to sign up. So I sent in a motivation letter, and in the end there were 5 people picked to actually start this. So we now have 5 people who actually start working at ESA, and so my supervisor is actually somebody from ESA, and I'm also doing my project with them. So one of the research projects I'm doing for my second semester is in collaboration with ESA, and I also go there and work in the office there. So yes, and this is something that they've started now and actually try to do more on
definitely.
In the future.
So in that sense, we have many different collaborations. Of course, many of the research projects that you can do will be from Leiden Observatory itself, but we also have the collaboration with ESA ESTEC, also collaborations with ESRON and Astron, and other both national and international astronomy communities in that sense.
Yes. Okay. Will the career specializations and the business study take place at the same place as the other specialization, or will they have same class or completely different classes? So I think
it will not, but it will not. It doesn't. It is not very far away. So you will have, if you do the astronomy and business studies program, you will actually do 1 year of astronomy and 1 year of business studies. And in the 1 year of astronomy, you will focus, of course, on the astronomy program. So you will do the courses in astronomy and a research project in astronomy in the first year at the observatory. But then the second year, the business studies year, you will be working in the business studies institute, in the business studies program. And that is, I think within 5 minutes of bicycle ride from the observatory, observatory in the bioscience park. So it is very close by, but it is in a different building. And also with students from different kind of programs. Also people from, of course, astronomy, but also people who have a physics background, mathematics background, or a computer science background. So it's more combined with the other different institutes and programs in our faculty.
Then we have a long one, and you might not be able to answer this, so no, you're on here now. But I study astronomy in Groningen right now, and I'm doubting coming to Leiden for my master's. Do you know any differences between the programs? Not the top of my head, I'm sorry. So maybe, I'm not sure if we can answer this now. Also, I already know that I don't want to do my PhD in Groningen because I don't specialize in cosmology here. Would it be possible to apply for a PhD in Leiden if you do not do cosmology masters in Leiden? Well, the second question, yes. It's of course, we get applications for quite a lot of people. So over the world, we get different applications, also in the field of cosmology and also in Leiden. So yes, it's possible. I do want to say, if you really know if you want to go in that direction, I think it might be useful for yourself to just go into the cosmology specialization. Because it really will give you a strong background, which will always also support your PhD application. So keep something like that in mind. I'm not sure if there's any differences between Groningen and Leiden. I looked this up long time ago. I don't know the answer. Do you know the answer?
Of course, there are differences.
Yeah.
But the differences are, especially in the field of research. Leiden University, Leiden Observatory is a very big research institute, so we have many different kind of astronomy research areas that we are focusing on, and the same goes for Groningen. So we are specialized in 8 different research fields, general research fields in astronomy at Leiden Observatory, and I think Groningen is focusing on 3 or 4 of those. And it really differs per program. But between the institutes, the main differences are within the different research fields that you can specialize in, but also in the fields outside of astronomy. For example, the fact that we combine astronomy with data science or with instrumentation, those are areas that we are a bit stronger in, also in cosmology, for example, at Leiden Observatory, and those kind of nuances will also be there at the Groningen Institute. But also Groningen is a very good institute, and it's a pretty large institute as well, so they have very strong master programs there as well.
Okay, let me just go to the top. If you want to start in September, when is the ideal time to contact the study advisor for specific personal questions?
It depends on the type of question, of course. If you want to have questions, if you have questions about the content of the program that you will do, so after being admitted to the program, of course you need to first apply for the program and be admitted for the program. But if you have general questions or questions about your background and how suitable that is for the astronomy master program at our institute, of course you can already reach out to me to ask these kind of questions. You can either send me an email or book an appointment online with me to discuss these kind of questions.
And then next one, is there a place for astronomy graduates to work on spaceflight programs, or is this only reserved for aerospace engineers? So this actually is going to depend on what you do. So if you do a little bit in the instrumentation, you actually might have a very obvious spot in those kind of programs, but especially also in data science and a lot of these things in machine learning, a lot of these projects, especially in spaceflight programs, they collect a lot of data, and that's what you really are trained to work with data and to get something out of it that is physically relevant. So that really depends, and if you know any way of this is something I really would like to go into, look at such a job application and say, okay, I need something in machine learning, I need something maybe in the background in physics, and I think that's something that you can really work your program around. So yes, there is place, but if you really want to build a rocket like in that kind of way and to really make sure that it's, I'm not sure how to say this well, but if you really want to work on building the rocket, maybe then it's aerospace engineers might be more what you're looking for, but working with a space flight program is something that you could do with astronomy master. Yes? Just a trivia question, how many students do you usually take each year for all specialization? Well, that's going to depend on the specialization. But
we don't have a maximum capacity for each specialization, but the majority of people either choose the astronomy research specialization because that gives you the most freedom to choose actually what kind of field you want to focus on primarily within your masters, because you have a lot of free electives that you can choose from. And we also have a large number of students that choose the data science specialization because that is an upcoming field, or it has been an upcoming field for the last few years already within the field of astronomy. Cosmology specialization is also fairly large, but of course that is a joint specialization together with the physics department. But we don't have a maximum capacity in terms of number of students that we want per specialization.
Okay, how will the program be structured with the 2 research projects? Is there a fixed time frame which each project has to be done? Would you like to take this one?
Yes. So basically, in the first, I can take for the research, but I think as far as other specializations go, you usually have 2 projects. Like for the research branch, you have 1 research project, the first master's research project in the first year, and the second research project in the second year. And I think for other specializations, especially the business specialization and the science communication specializations you have, for the second project, it's typically an internship or more a special project within your own specialization. And usually you have 1 year. The exact time frames are given a bit before the start of the program. There's a Q&A before you start your program as well, where those time frames are also explained, and so that's something you also will discuss with the study advisor before you start your program.
Yeah. But in general, the structure is such that you will work the entire first year, 50% of your time on your research project and 50% of your time for the second year on the second research project.
Yes. So you really have working on both courses and your research project during the week. So you have like 2 days that you work on your research and 2 days that you have lectures or a little bit mix of that. And it's also important to know that you also pick your second research project with your supervisor. So it's really one thing that you approach somebody to see what would you be interested in, and then you approach it to, okay, the professor, and you say, okay, I know you do work in this, would you maybe have a project for me? And that's something that's also very nice here in Leiden University, that you really get to pick what you would like to do. Okay, is the astronomy building campus in Leiden or Den Haag? It's actually it's Leiden. It's only in Leiden. Maybe is the business maybe
There are no components in
no components in The Hague. So it's all and most of it will take place in the Bioscience Park building that I showed you in the slides. So a little bit north of the central city of Leiden. If I want to study data science and astronomy, but later realize I'm more keen on data science applied in business or enterprises, would it be possible to have an opportunity in these fields?
During the studies, no, not specifically, because the astronomy and data science specialization is a research program in the end, so you will do 2 research projects, and in general these research projects needs to be, of course, astronomy related, and there aren't that many businesses who are working on astronomy research with a data science focus in that sense. But of course, after finishing the program, you have a lot of opportunity to work in business or enterprises on the data science in general. But during the astronomy and data science specialization, you will do a research project, so no internship. If you are keen on doing an internship, it is better to choose actually the astronomy and business studies program, because then you will do a research project in your first year, and in your second year, you get the opportunity to do a large internship at one of these businesses or enterprises. Okay, then we have a personal question. Why do you like studying astronomy? Awesome question.
You start.
Okay, I start. Yeah, that's a very good question. I kind of like in astronomy that, of course, as all of you can sympathize with that. It's about asking like the really big questions in the natural sciences, from the small things to the large things. And what I particularly like in astronomy, which really made me pursue a master here in Leiden, is that you can actually have a very interdisciplinary approach in astronomy. So in recent years, there have been really an explosion of possibilities where you can go into astronomy and have like connections to other fields such as chemistry, like molecular astrophysics, or biology as well. So it's kind of really a field where you can explore a high interdisciplinary working group as well, and that's what really fascinates me about astronomy.
Okay. Why do I like studying astronomy? It really fascinates me as well, and there are multiple reasons for that. I really like the physics part of it. So really finding out, okay, you get this data coming from it, and you only see the light from something, and then you can determine, oh, this might be its age, this might be its size, and I think that's really cool that we can find looking up at these little dots at the sky, that we can actually learn something from this. And I think that's also something that we really share with the world. It's also very nice that I get a question as, oh, can you predict supernovas? I have nothing to do with supernovas, and I really haven't studied them long, but I really like that I can answer these kind of questions with just a little bit of my background of like, oh yeah, you can, and then looking at something from NASA and sending them that, and then they're very excited. And I think it's very nice that we can have a very physics-based program, very data science-based program, very hard program, but challenging, but also something that people can relate to. And I think that's why I like astronomy so much. not sure if you want to say something.
No, I fully agree with the answers that you both gave.
Okay. What master did you choose, and what do you really like about those fields? I'm not really sure what to do because I find the most subjects very interesting, and I would love to hear your stories. Well, you can start again.
Okay. Yeah, that's a hard question if you're not really sure, because you are fascinated about almost all subjects in astronomy, from cosmology to planetary science to stellar astrophysics. I guess I would probably recommend you rather as the study advisor Walter Schrier said as well, the most broadest kind of specialization, the research specialization to start, because then you can really pick from different fields, and also since you have to do 2 research projects, one in your first year and one in your second year, you can even diversify your studies. So there is no obligation that you have to do both research fields in the same field. Actually, the opposite is kind of required. So they want you to really do different research, explore different research fields for each year, which is, I think, very, very exciting to think about.
Yeah. So I chose the Master of Research as well because I wanted to do something in high astrophysics, and I thought I was going to be very into these black holes and theory of general relativity. Then I followed the course. I figured that was not it. So I think that's something that is also something that you can learn, that I really thought I was going to do something in gravitational waves, and I found that I didn't really enjoy it. But I did got into contact with like radio astronomy, which is something I do now, and also something which I really do is stellar astrophysics. So now on my second project, I'm working with ESA and also working on like solar jets, which is something I also really found through my research project, and it fits a little bit with my first research project. My first research project was something else entirely, and I think that's also something that you can, you start picking your courses and you say, okay, this is something I like, and then you do the courses that come after that, and then if you say, okay, this course was nothing for me, you don't do the next courses and you pick something else that you might find even more enjoyable. So I think that's something, start with what you think you like and then see if it works out. And of course you don't start completely everything, try to get a direction, but the direction can be brought. What is the topic of your research project?
So I guess I can briefly elaborate what I'm going to do. So for also kind of going back to the first question as well, since I'm very interested in highly interdisciplinary fields in astronomy, I'm actually really excited to put my first emphasis in my first year on astrochemistry, where I'm working in the laboratory astrophysics group here in Leiden, and which is really interesting and exciting to me because you can actually combine questions which are highly relevant to astrophysics to laboratory work, to solid state physics, and also physical chemistry, to actually see like what chemical pathways are possible on the surfaces of dust grains, and actually see that it's possible that you not just can form like small molecules, but it can actually get as complex as potentially amino acids, and kind of that prospect is really exciting, and I'm looking forward to go further into this direction, to maybe steer towards astrobiology for my second year.
My research project is on solar jets, so I'm doing the collaboration, and I'm working really with data that we acquired from the sun. And from the sun there are tiny explosions coming from it, that's what we call solar jets. And I'm really looking into a statistical analysis of all these jets. So now we found a way through Zooniverse, which is actually citizen science. So people who are not trained are looking at the data and trying to show us where are the solar jets coming from. And I'm just looking at, okay, what are the sizes of these things? How long do they take? Because we don't have a large database of these things, and that's something that I've been working on. So doing statistical analysis of solar jets. Okay, about the astronomy student organization, will it include the students from business studies, science communication, or only for the research specialization? It will include everybody who wants to join. It really is, because this is also quite a large group which can join, so you have the multiple studies already, and they really don't specify if you have a research science communication. It's just astronomy master, come join, and it's really... It's fun. And we also have like biology, information, computer science majors combined together, which also can join here. I remember seeing in a presentation video on the Astronomy Master that when you apply from another Dutch university, you will need 2 letters of recommendation. When looking at the web page, a letter of recommendation is listed as optional on the required documents for application. Maybe I misunderstood, or which of these 2 is true?
You did not misunderstand. So that is a fault on our side. The presentation that is online, the presentation video was recorded last year, and this year, last year it was a mandatory component for the mandatory required document for application. And this year it is a very much highly recommended document, but it's not mandatory anymore, the letters of recommendation. But still it is very highly recommended to include at least 1 letter of recommendation from a former supervisor in your application.
Okay. Then we might got through the questions.
I think so. But maybe people have some more questions, so let's wait a few minutes. So you, yes. but both of you have chosen the research specialization, right?
Yes. So I think that already shows that you can go quite broad with these, because I studied more on solar physics and stellar physics mostly, and you really got more into the, like, you probably studied also interstellar medium now this semester. Or
next semester.
Next
Yes.
semester.
You actually started a month ago, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Very new here.
It's a very fresh student, fresh meat.
Yeah. But it's the same, that's my same incentive as well, that I really want to have a very broad opportunity here to study astronomy, and also to the research specialization. You can also do non-astronomy courses, which are limited to the physics, computer science, and mathematics programs. And so since I'm very interested in disciplinary topics, that makes me having a lot of freedom in choosing courses from physics, which also elaborate on maybe surface science or biophysics, which are also highly relevant for the direction I would like to go.
Yeah, in that sense, the astronomy research specialization really meant for the students who want to have the broadest possible and the most freedom in choosing what kind of field they want to work in the end. So the data science specialization, the cosmology specialization, and instrumentation specialization are actually prefabricated versions of the general research specialization.
But they do give you a guideline, so if you know where you want to go, it's good to already pick it maybe. Because you always have freedom to get a little bit more, like, oh, I want to do cosmology, and then I'll just take an extra course of astrochemistry with it. That's also possible.
Definitely.
And that's, It might have been told already, but did you both study the astronomy bachelor? So I did the astronomy bachelor in Leiden, and you did?
In Vienna.
Vienna. So yes, we both have a background in astronomy, but different locations.
Yeah. But that is actually pretty unique that that Julian has done a bachelor in astronomy. Usually people do a bachelor in physics with astronomy modules. And in your case, it was an actual bachelor degree in astronomy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That is fairly unique in that sense.
In that case, I actually also looked into going to physics first, actually, before I decided for university. And then I actually ended up starting really physics for a year. But that program in Munich, where I first studied physics for a year, also offered an opportunity to specialize in astronomy. But then I saw that it's not quite what I liked, and so I decided to go directly to a university where I can start with astronomy directly as a bachelor. And I might have even chosen Leiden if it was not in Dutch only, the bachelor. So,
so you can study astronomy in the Netherlands in English in Groningen since a few years, but because of that we have to do the bachelors in Dutch. That's but we switched in the second year we switched to English in the bachelor, so it's more of a transition from Dutch to English.
In the first year, they also did some parts. I remember one lecturer who actually spoke in Dutch and wrote in English. I've always found it fascinating.
You have the two parts of your brain.
It was great.
I recall the same things. Like some people had their manuscripts in English, but they taught in German if no one had any objections for it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I think it's quite nice that Leiden has the default is English in master, and that's not always the case in the bachelor, but it is in the master for most people.
Which I think is really a benefit if you get to know the terms in English as well, because at one point, especially after in your masters and later in your PhD, for sure you're only encountering English terms. So if you know those terms in astrophysics in English already, that's going to be a big help.
The books are already English, so. Okay, how and why did you choose your current research study, and do you have any tips when choosing one?
Project, I think.
Study, project?
I think it's project.
Okay.
Do you have any tips when choosing one? I think what I would do if I wasn't sure yet, I would go through to the Leiden University website, to the Sterrenwacht, to the observatory website, and see what research fields are available in Leiden University. Looking into the staff members, seeing their research groups, maybe recent press releases, and see what really you kind of have a personal affection towards, what kind of research you find really interesting. Is it more cosmology, large-scale structure, or do you like to go into, are you more fascinated about stellar phenomena or planetary science, or even highly interdisciplinary topics like astrochemistry? So I think having a cup of tea or coffee and going through the Leiden University observatory website into the staff and research fields would be a good place to kick off.
As a start, yeah. And then the next step is have a cup of tea with the supervisor and talk with them about the research areas that they are working on.
And you will know. You'll find it. That's usually what I found. It's very something that you have to be excited about. You know, I need to like this, because if you get stuck in that, you're not gonna like it. So it's something, especially, I also, some colloquias which now actually might be online because of this. And I looked at the colloquia and I got so excited, I was like, yeah, okay, this is it. Yeah. It's a good one, I think.
But that is a big factor, of course, when starting in the masters. We focus on helping you to actually choose a project if you don't know what kind of project you want to work on. Yeah.
Especially the first year, you get like a presentation and like a list, maybe, okay, these supervisors have projects, and you could talk to them and see which fits you best. Yeah. And that's also something my second year, the idea was I was going to go to supervisors, but since the collaboration, I had a little bit more of a shorter list. And then I spoke with 3 supervisors and made a short list from them, and that's how I got my current project as well. Because I said like, these might be interesting for me. Then I talked to the supervisors, which I had to click with most, and then I chose that one. Okay, could you give some examples of research being done in the data science specialization?
Maybe I can take this one?
Yes.
So, of course, astronomy is a very data-driven research field in general. So many different topics within different astronomy research fields can be actually applicable for the data science specialization. So you can work on, for example, large surveys, for example, the Gaia telescope, with more than 1 billion stars in the telescope. The astrometry for these kind of stars are, of course, a very good example of a data science project field that you can focus on for your masters. But you can also work on a more machine learning focused data science project, or a more statistical focused data science project. So there are many different topics within astronomy that are actually very much suited for a data science specialization and a data science project in that sense.
I believe actually with my current project, I'm also doing the statistical analysis of like multiple star clusters. I think we have about at least 150 for now, and it's just the first few months. So that's also already data-driven, and I think that's something that's also important in astronomy.
Definitely.
I think I can take the next one. How do you find the transition from another university to Leiden? Do you have a lot of overlap? So as I mentioned in my introductory slide, I come from Austria, did my bachelor in astronomy in Vienna there. So in that case, I found it a very good preparation, the bachelor in astronomy in Vienna. Really overlap, I would say I have not much overlap, so I'm not kind of feeling I'm repeating a lot of courses. So actually the master courses here in Leiden are, in my own opinion, very complementary and nicely continue what I did in Vienna. So I think all the courses available in Leiden, especially the core courses and the astronomy specialist courses they offer, have a very specific topic, and to really nicely continue what you usually encounter in your bachelor, like radiative processes and introductory courses in stars and planets and cosmology.
Yeah, yeah. So it really builds up in that sense. And in the hypothetical case that there would be any overlap between what you did during your bachelor's or previous program and specific courses within our astronomy master, you do have the freedom, of course, to choose a different kind of course than within the master, so that you don't actually have to redo that same kind of course again during your master's program. And that is an important part also in the beginning of the program. You actually choose your own study path. You select the courses in consultation with me. You select the courses that you want to do within your specialization, and you select the kind of research project that would be best suited for your background in that sense as well.
Yeah, maybe I can add that I did the master course in Vienna, the Stellar Structure and Evolution course, which is a big core course here in Leiden as well as in Vienna in the Master of Science prospectus or curriculum. And I was able to, I showed them, they did the course back in Vienna, and so I was able to to use those credits which would be allocated for this course, and instead use it for courses I'm very new to in Leiden.
Yeah.
I think we're back to the white screen.
Yeah. So you talked a bit about your second project, but you've already done a first project, right?
Yes, I've done my first project last year, so I wrote that until the end of July.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done that, I want actually with more of a collaboration with Astron, or my supervisor was part from Astron, so did more in the radio astronomy. And that was really into the magnetic field, so I think that always, it very well linked with my current project, but I wasn't expecting it to. Yeah. Is there an observatory in Leiden University? Do you conduct activities like telescope viewing? Yes, so we have the old observatory, that was one of my slides, the Kaiser Study Association actually does tours there. So you have the old observatory, which is not where we have any lectures, but they do have old kind of telescopes, and especially in the Bachelor, some of these telescopes are used for that. We for scientific purposes, for the master learning about the telescope, no, not really, because these telescopes are outdated. They're not really used for these kind of things anymore, but we do use them for fun sometimes. And that's the telescope viewing nights and stuff like that. But you can, if you really want to get involved in more telescope, then you can talk to your supervisor if there is something like that. I know a friend of mine who was able to use a telescope, which is rare, but if you really want to, you can maybe find something for that. And there are also internships in La Palma, which are published now. So especially if you're from Leiden, you could actually also maybe go there if you really want to. Is that something you would like to do professionally, maybe a little bit more?
Yeah, we actually have 2 students now from Leiden on La Palma working on ING studentship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. But of course, the telescopes in the old observatory are, from a historic point of view, are very interesting telescopes. But they are optical, small telescopes, and we are in a very condensed, light-polluted city, of course, here.
You can maybe see that series is the series is moving, but you can see the moon, but that's about it. Yeah. It was fun for planet viewing, so you could look at how Mars was going to go and stuff like that. So. Okay, I am planning to take the business study specialization, but I still have no idea about the research topic for the first year. Can you give me an examples for previous students in the specialization?
So in that sense, it's similar to when you would do the research specialization, because the first year of the business studies program is just a normal astronomy year. So in that sense, you can choose from the same number and the same kind of research topics for your first project as any other astronomy student. And then it ranges through the entire range of research areas that we are focusing on. So that can be planetary science, that can be something on galaxies, the very old universe, cosmology, simulations, a very broad field of astronomy topics that you can choose from. So there are no particular projects that are only suitable for the business studies, people from the business studies specialization.
Yeah, I actually know somebody who actually does the science communication, and she has the first year is fully the specialization cosmology, and also doing a project in cosmology, and the second year is really in going to the science communication. So that's something that you can do with this program. Okay. Okay, how do you think someone with a Bachelor of Computer Science will do in the astronomy program? So I think maybe this is more for you, yes.
Yeah, as we said before, we had the question about a person with a background in artificial intelligence. It really depends on what you've done within your bachelor's, not only in the field of computer science and mathematics, but especially also in the field of physics and astronomy, which of course are not normal components of a computer science degree. So if you have only a background in computer science, but no course or research background in the field of elementary or fundamental physics and astronomy, I think it will be very difficult to actually be admitted to our program, because we really expect you to have a good foundation within the field of physics and astronomy to actually start in our program, because of the fact that we expect you to already have done courses on quantum mechanics, classical mechanics, but also stars, galaxies, cosmology, etc.
Yes, you have to realize that as an astronomy student, you really are noted that they go into the courses. If you have no background in astronomy at all, it's going to be very hard to follow these courses, because they all depend on previous knowledge that you will have learned in the bachelor or something like that. But without any physics and astronomy courses, this is going to be hard.
It's going to be impossible, actually.
Okay,
yeah.
It's going to be impossible, yes. Because as astronomy, you are trained in all these fields like physics, astronomy, and computer science, but not as deep as in computer science. No?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. Among the students, is it common to choose a path outside academia after graduating? Yes.
In the end, 50% of the students go into a PhD, so the other 50% actually go outside of academia after graduating. And then you have all these different fields that Paloma was already talking about, people working in data science, in management, consultancy, education, science communication, many different fields that you can work on with astronomy outside of astronomy academia. I think we're moving towards the end of the Q&A session, so let's wait a few seconds to see if more questions are coming up, but also looking at the time. So if you have any super important questions that you need to ask now, you can very quickly type it into the online questionnaire.
Yes.
And alternatively, you can always reach us through email, of course.
Yes.
You can find our credentials on the website to contact either me as a study advisor or Paloma as a student ambassador of the Masters. Thank you very much for joining us in this session, and Paloma and Julian, thank you very much for being here and sharing your experiences.
Yes, well, goodbye, maybe till we see you.
See you.
Bye-bye.